The rain-slicked streets of Boston gleamed under the sodium lamps like a promise I couldn't keep. And that's when I saw him, my best friend Jake, tangled in the arms of the guy I'd been secretly pining for since freshman orientation, their laughter slicing through me sharper than the autumn chill. I froze in the doorway of that dive bar on Commonwealth Avenue, the kind of place where undergrads drown their regrets in cheap IPAs, my heart pounding like a bass drum in a Bruins game gone south. "Alex," Jake called out, his voice slurring just enough to betray the betrayal, but it was too late. The image burned into my retinas, a snapshot of everything I wasn't brave enough to claim. I bolted into the night, the downpour soaking my hoodie, turning my world into a blurry watercolor of neon signs and honking cabs. Why did it have to be Ryan? The star quarterback with the easy grin and those hazel eyes that made my stomach flip every time he high-fived me after practice. We'd all been inseparable, me, Jake, Ryan, the unbreakable trio navigating the chaos of Boston University, late-night cram sessions in the BU Castle, tailgates that stretched into dawn. But tonight, under the relentless New England rain, it shattered. I didn't cry until I hit my dorm room on Bay State Road, collapsing onto the twin bed with its faded Red Sox comforter, the walls closing in like the weight of every lie I told myself about who I was. I'm Alex Rivera, 21, a poli-sci major with dreams of law school that felt as distant as the Charles River fog. Growing up in a sleepy suburb outside Philly, I'd learned early to bury the parts of me that didn't fit the script. The kid who stared too long at the lifeguards at the community pool, the teen who hoarded crushes on movie stars like some shameful treasure. College was supposed to be freedom, the Ivy League promise of reinvention amid the brick facades and infinite coffee shops. But freedom felt like quicksand. I dated girls, sure, awkward fumblings at frat parties that left me hollow. All to keep the peace with Jake, my roommate since day one. The straight arrow finance was who'd become my anchor. Ryan was the wild card, the golden boy everyone wanted. And I'd convinced myself my feelings were just bro love, nothing more. That night, as the storm raged outside my window overlooking the bustling Kenmore Square, I couldn't sleep. My phone buzzed incessantly. Texts from Jake, "Dude, WTF? Come back." And Ryan, "Heard you saw us. It's not what it looks like. Or maybe it is. Talk." I hurled the phone across the room, watching it skid under the desk. By morning, the campus was a sodden mess, puddles mirroring the gray sky, and I knew I couldn't face them. Not yet. That's when the email from the dean's office pinged. Mandatory counseling session for academic stress, courtesy of my plummeting GPA. Great. Just what I needed. A stranger poking at my frayed edges. The counseling center was tucked into the basement of the student union, a warren of beige rooms smelling faintly of chamomile tea and desperation. I slouched into the waiting area, flipping through a dog-eared copy of The Atlantic, pretending the article on climate policy held my rapt attention. "Alex," a voice warm and steady, pulled me up. Dr. Elias Grant, 30-something, with salt and pepper hair cropped close, wire-rimmed glasses that magnified kind brown eyes, and a flannel shirt rolled to the elbows over khakis that screamed, approachable intellectual. He extended a hand, his grip firm but not overpowering, like he knew exactly how much pressure to apply without invading space. We settled into his office, a cozy nook with bookshelves groaning under tomes on psychology and queer theory. Wait, queer theory? My pulse quickened. A rainbow flag pin glinted on his lanyard, subtle but unmistakable. "So, Alex," he started, leaning back in his leather chair, a notepad balanced on his knee but untouched. "What brings you here today?" The email said stress, but I suspect there's more to the story. I shrugged, staring at the frayed hem of my jeans. "Just midterms. You know, the usual. Line number 1. He nodded, not pressing, his gaze steady like the harbor lighthouse on a foggy night. We talked surface stuff, classes, the grind of group projects, how the tea delays were sabotaging my commute from Alston. But as the minutes ticked by, something shifted. Maybe it was the way he listened, really listened, without that pitying tilt of the head so many shrinks peddle. Or the photo on his desk. Him and a bearded guy in hiking gear, arms slung around each other atop some Adirondack peak. grins wide as the vista behind them. By session's end, he'd assigned homework. Journal 3 things I was grateful for daily. Simple, right? But as I stepped back into the crisp air, the common skeletal oaks rustling, I felt a crack in the armor. That night, staring at my blank notebook, I scribbled, Jake's laugh, even if it gutted me now. Ryan's impossible smile, and unexpectedly, Dr. Grant's unflinching calm. Little did I know, that crack would widen into a chasm. The weeks blurred into a rhythm of avoidance and ache. I'd spot Jake in the dining hall at Warren Towers, his eyes pleading across the salad bar, but I'd duck out, claiming a study group. Ryan cornered me once outside the gym on Comm Avenue, sweat-damp hair tousled, jersey clinging in ways that made my throat dry. Alex, man, Jake's a mess. We were drunk. It meant nothing. Wait. Shit. That's not fair to him. His confusion mirrored mine, but I mumbled something about needing space and vanished into the throng of joggers circling the esplanade. Classes dragged. My prof in constitutional law droned on about landmark cases like Obergefell, each word a dagger twisting the secret I'd locked away. Counseling became my lifeline, twice a week in that sanctuary of sorts. Dr. Grant, Elias, as he insisted after the 3rd session, had a way of unraveling me without force. We'd start light, dissecting a Red Sox loss or debating the merits of Dunkin' versus Starbucks. He was a traitor to the cause, a Starbucks loyalist. Then, inevitably, the tide turned inward. Tell me about your friends, he'd say one afternoon, as sunlight slanted through the blinds, gilding the spines of his books. I hesitated, the bar scene replaying like a bad loop. Finally, it spilled. The rain, the embrace, the flight. Not the full truth, of course. I framed it as losing a brother, not the shatter of unrequited love. He listened, chin steepled, then leaned forward. Betrayal stings deepest when it's wrapped in love, doesn't it? The kind that blurs lines we draw to protect ourselves. His words hung, heavy with implication. I nodded, throat tight, and for the first time I wondered if he saw it. The gay kid masquerading as straight, the facade crumbling under its own weight. That session ended with a referral to a support group, Queer Minds at BU. But I chickened out, the flyer crumpling in my backpack like a guilty secret. Fall deepened, leaves carpeting the quad in fiery reds and golds. The air crisp with the promise of harvest festivals and haunted hayrides. Jake and I circled each other like wary cats. Polite nods in the laundry room, stilted texts about rent. Ryan pulled back, respecting the invisible boundary, but his absence ached like a phantom limb. Loneliness settled in, thick as the fog rolling off the river during morning runs along Starrow Drive. Elias noticed, of course. You're carrying this alone, Alex. What if you let someone in? Not all the way, just a crack. I tried journaling more, the entries veering from gratitude to raw confession. Dreams of Ryan's hands, fears of disowning by my conservative folks back in PA, the terror of being the campus gay cliché. One entry bled into poetry, scribbled on a napkin during a lecture. Shadows in the stacks, where books whisper what hearts can't. Elias read it aloud in our next session, his voice a gentle timbre that made my cheeks burn. This is beautiful, Alex. Vulnerable. It's you. Peeking through. That was the turning point, I think. Vulnerability. The word echoed as I left, the campus alive with Friday frenzy. Students streaming toward the bars on Boylston, laughter bubbling like champagne. I almost texted Jake, almost called Ryan, but instead, I wandered to the counseling center unannounced, heart hammering. Elias was there late-night hours for the stragglers. Couldn't stay away? He teased, but his eyes held concern. We talked for hours, off the clock, over vending machine coffee that tasted like regret. He shared slivers of himself. Growing up in rural Vermont, the farm boy crush on the neighbor's son that ended in a black eye and a Bible-thumping sermon. Coming out at 25 after med school, to a partner who'd stood by him through the wreckage. It wasn't linear, Alex. Paths rarely are. But honesty, it's the compass. His hand brushed mine as he passed the sugar packet. Accidental electric. I pulled back, but the spark lingered, a forbidden warmth in the sterile room. Winter crept in on nor'easter winds, blanketing Boston in snow that muffled the city's roar. Christmas break loomed, a dreaded return to PA where Dad's Eagles jerseys and Mom's church potlucks waited like minefields. Jake and I had thawed somewhat, a tentative pizza night at Pinocchio's, where apologies flowed freer than the Chianti. "I should have told you about Ryan," he admitted, eyes downcast. "But I didn't know how. And I think he likes you, dude. More than he lets on." My fork clattered, hope and horror colliding. Was it pity or truth? Ryan confirmed it a week later, ambushing me after a pickup game at the track and tennis center. Snow dusted his beanie, breath fogging the air as he blocked my path on the path to the tee. Jake blabbed, "Huh? Look, Alex, that night. It was stupid. A rebound from my ex. But I've seen how you look at me. And Shit, I look back." His confession hung, raw and real, under the street lamp's glow. We kissed then, tentative snowflakes melting on our lashes. My first real kiss, tasting of peppermint gum and possibility. It was fireworks and fear, the world tilting on its axis. But joy is fleeting in stories like mine. Elias's office became confessional again, this time laced with elation. "Ryan and I, we're trying," I blurted, the words tumbling like loose change. He smiled, genuine, but a shadow flickered. Jealousy? No, impossible. He was my counselor, straight-edge professional. "That's huge, Alex. Own it. But remember, love's a mirror. It shows you yourself, warts and all." His advice grounded me as Ryan and I navigated the newness. Stolen moments in the Muger Memorial Library stacks, hands intertwined under the table at study sessions, whispers of futures amid the scent of aged paper. The words landed like punches. Settled? Was that what Ryan thought? Doubt crept in, poisoning the idyll. I confronted Ryan the next day on the BU beach, the Charles lapping at our feet. Jake said. He cut me off, face-storming. "Jake's jealous. Always has been. But yeah, maybe part of me wondered if I could fix you or something. Stupid, right? Fix me?" The implication gutted me. We fought, voices rising over the rower calls, ending in a slammed door and a blocked number. Betrayal's echo chamber is deafening. Jake's words festered, Ryan's half-admission a wound that wouldn't cauterize. I spiraled, skipped classes, ghosted friends, the journal pages filling with rage-scrawled pleas. Elias saw it immediately, our session a battlefield. "He's projecting, Alex. But why do you believe him? What's the lie you're telling yourself?" I cracked then, the dam bursting. That I'm enough. That loving a guy like Ryan doesn't make me broken. That, God, Elias, I think I'm falling for you. Not as a shrink. As you. Silence stretched, taut as a tightrope. His face softened, not with shock, but sorrow. "Alex, I saw it coming. The way your eyes lingered, the poems. And yes, I felt it too. A pull undeniable. But this," he gestured between us, "the ethical chasm. I can't. Not while I'm your counselor. It's not fair to you or me." Rejection, wrapped in care. Should have crushed me, but instead it clarified. He wasn't rejecting me. He was protecting the truth we'd both glimpsed. That night, I wrote my resignation letter to the facade. An email to Mom and Dad. "I'm gay. And I'm okay." To Jake, "We need to talk. For real." To Ryan, "Maybe we're not ready, but I wish you the best." And to Elias, a simple note. "Thank you for seeing me. All of me." Summer unfurled lazy and luminous, Boston streets alive with street fairs and harbor breezes. I interned at a legal aid clinic in the South End, advocating for LGBTQ+ youth, cases that mirrored my own fractures, mending them one deposition at a time. Jake and I rebuilt slowly over runs along the muddy river, apologies evolving into understanding. "I was scared," he confessed one dawn, sweat slicked and honest, "of losing you to this other life." Ryan dated someone new, a theater kid with a laugh like wind chimes, and we nodded in passing, civil ghosts of what might have been. Elias transferred me to another counselor, a kind woman with a knack for mindfulness, but our paths crossed at a campus pride event on the quad. He was there with his partner, the bearded hiker from the photo, now sporting a wedding band that caught the sun. We talked, light, then deeper, about paths diverging, reconverging in unexpected ways. "You found yours," he said, clapping my shoulder. "And damn, Alex, it's bright." As senior year beckoned, with law school apps stacked like autumn leaves, I stood on the BU Bridge at sunset, the skyline a silhouette of spires and dreams. The boy who'd run from rain was gone. In his place, a man who chased truths, however jagged. Love wasn't a destination. It was the road, potholed and profound, lined with betrayals that taught forgiveness, crushes that sparked self-love. And in the quiet moments, I whispered thanks to the counselor who'd seen through the smoke, handing me the map to my true north. Not his arms, but my own, wide open, finally, to the world. The irony of it all hit me like a rogue wave during my first week back on campus that fall senior year, the home stretch, and here I was out and ostensibly proud, yet haunted by the ghosts of half-truths. The Pride event had been a whirlwind. Rainbow flags snapping in the breeze off the Charles, drag queens lip-syncing Gaga on a makeshift stage by the Superfrog fountain, free condoms and keychains emblazoned with "BU loves all." I'd manned a booth for the legal aid clinic, handing out pamphlets on marriage equality updates post-Windsor, my lanyard badge proclaiming, "Alex Rivera, advocate in training." Strangers clapped me on the back. A sorority girl with glitter-dusted cheeks hugged me spontaneously, whispering, "You're brave, boo, brave." The word tasted like ash. Elias had been there, yes, but it was his partner, Theo, who stole the show. Not in a flashy way, but solid, like the oak trees shading Nickerson Field. Tall, with a lumberjack build and a beard that framed a perpetual half-smile. He shook my hand with calloused palms from his carpentry gigs. "Elias talks about you," he said, eyes twinkling behind wire frames that matched his husband's. "The kid who wrote poetry in session. Said it rivaled Frost." I blushed, mumbling thanks, but inside, gratitude swelled. Not for the compliment, but for the normalcy, the way they leaned into each other, Theo's arm casual around Elias's waist, as if queer love was just love. No fanfare, no footnotes. Back in my new off-campus apartment in Alston, a creaky triple-decker with peeling wallpaper and a fire escape that doubled as a balcony. I unpacked boxes of law texts and thrift store finds, the space echoing with absence. Jake had sublet elsewhere, chasing Wall Street dreams with an internship at Fidelity. Ryan was a grad student now, buried in coaching clinics at BC. My roommates were a mismatched pair. Lena, a bio major from Seattle with a nose ring and a vegan manifesto, and Marcus, a theater tech was from Queens whose drag name, Marigold, outshone his stagehand gigs. They welcomed my coming out 2.0 with zero drama. Lena baked gluten-free rainbow cookies. Marcus queued up Hedwig and the Angry Inch for movie night. "Honey, if you're bringing boys home, just text the group chat first," he quipped, winking. Safety nets, finally. Classes ramped up fast. Torts with a prof who chain-smoked outside GSAS, quoting Scalia like scripture. A seminar on civil rights where we dissected Loving versus Virginia alongside same-sex precedents, my contributions earning nods that felt like victories. But beneath the bustle, doubt gnawed. Late nights, scrolling Grindr out of curiosity, deleted after one awkward coffee date with a finance bro who quoted Ayn Rand. I'd replay Elias's words, "Honesty's the compass." Was I honest? With the mirror, yes, staring down the boyish face that still flushed at cute baristas. With others, mostly, but the betrayal scar from Ryan lingered, a reminder that love could curdle. It manifested in small ways. Flinching at PDA on the green line, overanalyzing every flirtation. Then came the clinic case, a high school kid from Dorchester, outed by a Snapchat gone wrong, facing expulsion threats from a parochial academy. We met in a fluorescent-lit conference room downtown, him slouched in an oversized hoodie, eyes darting like a cornered fox. "They say I'm a distraction," he muttered, voice cracking. "Like I chose this." Echoes of my own closet days. I coached him through the complaint, citing FERPA and Title IX, but as he left with a fist bump and a flicker of hope, I texted Elias, off-limits but urgent. Seeing myself in a client. How do you not burn out? His reply came swift. You don't. You channel it. Coffee tomorrow? Neutral ground, strictly friends. Neutral ground. The Diesel Cafe in Davis Square? Somerville's hipster haven with mismatched mugs and chalkboard menus. I arrived early, nerves jangling like loose change, ordering a flat white to steady my hands. Elias slid into the booth minutes later, casual in a Henley that hugged his frame, glasses fogged from the chill. Theo was at a job site, he explained, restoring a brownstone in Beacon Hill. We talked shop first. Burnout stats from APA journals, self-care rituals, his fly fishing on the Sudbury River. Then, inevitably, the personal. You look good, Alex, he said, stirring his Americano. Settled. But there's a shadow. Busted. I spilled about the kid. The parallels. How Ryan's fix you jab still echoed in quiet moments. Elias listened, then shared his own scar. A coming out that cost him a sibling's wedding invite, mended years later over a tentative brunch. Betrayal's a teacher, not a tombstone. It shows where your boundaries need shoring. His foot nudged mine under the table. Accidental? Intentional? And electricity hummed. We pulled back, laughing it off as cafe awkwardness. But the air thickened with what-ifs. Fall foliage peaked, the Arnold Arboretum a riot of crimson maples, and I threw myself into Pride Week planning. Panels on intersectional queerness, a queer prom redo for the undergrads. Jake visited one weekend, suit-clad and slick from Manhattan, bearing bagels from Essa Bagel as peace offerings. We walked the Freedom Trail, dodging tourists at Faneuil Hall, hashing out the wreckage. I was a dick, he admitted, kicking a pebble toward the harbor. Projecting my own crap, Dad's homophobia rubbing off. But seeing you now? Proud as hell. Hugs replaced high fives, brotherhood reborn. Ryan's reconciliation came quieter, at an alumni mixer in the castle's great hall, chandeliers casting golden pools on parquet floors. He approached with a beer in hand, his new boyfriend trailing. A lanky artist type with tattoos snaking up his arms. No hard feelings? Ryan asked, grin sheepish. I shook my head, clapping his shoulder. Water under the bridge, QB. You two look good. And we did, 4 of us chatting sports and shows, the past a footnote, not a chain. But Elias lingered, a gravitational pull. Our friend coffees multiplied. Once at Tat Bakery in Brookline, dissecting a New Yorker piece on trans rights. Another at the ICA, wandering exhibits of queer photographers, his commentary sharp as shattered glass. Theo joined sometimes, a buffer of easy banter, but absences bred tension. One evening, post a lecture on Foucault at the Pappas Center, Elias walked me to the tea station, the commons which hazel blooming defiant against the dusk. Alex, he started, voice low. It's blurring lines I swore not to cross. Heart in throat. I stopped under a lamppost's glow. Then unblur them. I'm not your patient anymore. He cupped my cheek, thumb tracing my jaw, tender, testing. The kiss was inevitable, soft as snowfall, tasting of Earl Grey and elapsed ethics. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, the world a distant hum. Theo knows, he whispered. We've been open about it. But it's real. Scary real. Scary real. The phrase anchored me through the whirlwind that followed. Dates materialized. A picnic on the Esplanade with lobster rolls from Legal Seafoods, his hand in mine as we watched sailboats slice the river. A drive to the North Shore, wind whipping through the open windows of his Subaru, stopping at Singing Beach where we raced waves and collapsed laughing in the surf. Elias was a revelation. Witty in bed, metaphors, not details. Think tangled sheets and whispered philosophies. Vulnerable in vulnerability. His body a map of Vermont winters and city scars. Theo, a friend, eventually. Dinners where he grilled me on law ambitions, toasting to unconventional compasses. Yet conflict brewed, insidious as nor'easter clouds. Clinic pressures mounted. The Dorchester kids case dragged into hearings. His family's pastor picketing the courthouse with signs screaming, Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve. I testified, voice steady under fluorescent glare, but the hate mail that followed. Anonymous emails laced with slurs, chipped at my resolve. Elias urged caution. Protect your light, Alex. Don't let them dim it. But doubt whispered. Was I too out? Too loud? Jake echoed it during a call, fresh from a family Thanksgiving where his uncle ranted about gay agendas. Tone it down, bro. For your own good. The fracture widened at a holiday party hosted by the clinic, eggnog and fairy lights in a Back Bay townhouse. Carols mingling with civil rights anthems. Elias arrived solo, Theo in Vermont for a family thing, and we stole moments. A dance in the parlor to River by Joni Mitchell, his breath warm on my neck. But Ryan was there too, invited as a donor, his artist bow charming the room. Eyes met across the punch bowl, old sparks, new context. Later, buzzed on spiked cider, Ryan pulled me aside in the powder room. You deserve this, Alex. But him? The shrink? It's messy. Power imbalance and all that. Messy. The word festered overnight, amplified by a nightmare of ethics boards and shattered trust. Morning brought confrontation. Elias at my door with coffee and concern. Ryan talked to you. Statement, not question. I nodded, spilling insecurities. The age gap, 10 years felt like epochs. The professional shadow, fears I'd become the patient who got too close. He listened, then drew me into an embrace that smelled of pine soap and certainty. We're equals now. Equals in mess, equals in magic. But if it's too much, it's not. I cut in fierce. Fight for it. With me. We did, that season, counseling each other through storms, literal and figurative. A blizzard trapped us in his Cambridge walk-up. Power out. Candles flickering as we played Scrabble by firelight. Words forming like spells. Queer, resilient, home. Theo returned, and the three of us navigated poly-curiosities over brunches at Mr. Bartley's Burger Cottage. Boundaries drawn, hearts expanded. It wasn't tidy, American dream perfect, but humanistic in its honesty. Love as experiment, not endpoint. Spring senior project loomed, a thesis on queer jurisprudence, poring over archives in the Howard Gottlieb Center, dust motes dancing in sunbeams. Elias proofread drafts, his red pen gentle. Jake Skyped edits from his cubicle. Even Ryan contributed stats on sports inclusivity. Betrayals? Repurposed as chapters. From closet to courtroom. Personal narratives in legal reform. Graduation neared. Caps and gowns a blur on the shores of the Charles. But one shadow persisted. A letter from home, mom's script shaky. We love you, but this life. Pray on it, son. The hook yanked taut. Home for summer meant PA's rolling hills and unspoken rules, the kind stitched into the fabric of Sunday suppers and backyard barbecues. Mom's letter had arrived like a grenade mid-thesis defense. Postmarked Willow Grove, scented with her lavender sachets, words dancing around the abyss. Pride in my degree, worry for my soul, a pamphlet from their church tucked inside like contraband. God's plan is pure, Alex. This phase passes. Phase. As if my queerness was a sophomore slump, not the core humming beneath my skin. I drove down I-95 in a borrowed Prius from the clinic, windows down to let the Jersey Turnpike's industrial tang chase away Boston's brine. Elias had kissed me goodbye at Logan, his call every day, a talisman against the miles. Theo texted memes, drag queen roasts on heteronormativity, to keep spirits high. But as the skyline gave way to suburbia, dread coiled. Dad's hardware store on York Road, shelves stocked with nails and narratives of manly provision. Mom's garden club, where gossip flowed freer than the iced tea. I come out in emails, braced for fallout, but facing it flesh and blood? Different beast. The first dinner was a minefield. Pot roast steaming on floral china. Dad's eagle's cap perched like a crown. Mom's eyes bright but brittle. So, law school, he grunted, carving meat with surgical precision. Big city still? Or coming home? Subtext, to normalcy. I nodded, throat dry. Harvard's top choice. Boston suits me. Pause. Mom bridged. And friends? Anyone special? Her smile strained. Pamphlets echo loud. I swallowed. Yeah, Elias. He's Counselor, but now more. We met through school. Silence thick as gravy. Dad's fork scraped porcelain. Counselor, huh? Hope he's not filling your head with nonsense. Nonsense. The word ignited. I pushed back. He's filling it with truth, Dad. About who I am. Who I've always been. Mom's hand fluttered to her cross necklace. Dad's jaw set like concrete. Bible says man and man. Abomination. We're worried, son. For your eternity. Eternity. As if love damned, not redeemed. I fled to my old room post-meal, posters of Springsteen and the Constitution peeling at edges, the twin bed a time capsule. Texts from Elias lit the dark. Breathe. You're not alone. Jake called, voice tinny from the trading floor. Parents suck at this. Give them time or don't. Your call. Sleep evaded, dreams tangling Ryan's ghost kiss with Elias's steady gaze. Waking sweat slicked to fireflies blinking outside. The weeks stretched, a tense détente. I helped at the store, stacking lumber while Dad monologued Fox News talking points. Obergefell as judicial overreach. I'd counter softly, it's about equality, Dad. Like the ERA you fought for in the 70s. Cracks appeared. A grunted maybe over lunch at the diner, where pie came with free refills and reluctant questions. This Elias. He treat you right. Progress jagged but real. Back in Boston by July 4th. Fireworks bursting over the harbor like defiant stars. Elias waited on my fire escape with craft beers and a grill sizzling brats. Theo manned the tongs, regaling us with Vermont tales. Maple sugaring, skinny dipping in Walden Pond. We toasted freedoms. Mine from the closet, theirs from convention. That night, tangled in Elias's arms, city lights winking below, I confessed the parental ache. They'll come around, he murmured, fingers tracing my spine. Or they won't. But you've got family here, messy chosen. Messy chosen. The clinic ramped up for fall, onboarding interns with mock trials in the conference room. My Dorchester kid, Jamal, won his case. Reinstated with a settlement for emotional distress. His grateful hug in the hallway a balm. You changed my life, Mr. Rivera. Mr. Rivera. Future title, perhaps. Law school apps flew. Harvard, Penn, Yale, personal statements weaving my arc from hidden pangs to advocacy firebrand. But autumn winds carried omens. Elias's practice announced expansions. Group therapy for queer vets, a podcast on mental health equity. He glowed, but exhaustion shadowed his eyes, sessions bleeding into nights. Our rhythm faltered. Canceled dates for emergencies, my thesis revisions clashing with his deadlines. One October Eve, post a Red Sox playoff watch at Game On. Fenway, crowd roaring as Big Papi crushed a homer. We argued in the cab home, rain lashing windows. You're pulling away, I accused, voice raw. He sighed, head against glass. Not pulling, protecting. This intensity, it's consuming us. Protecting. Echo of Ryan's fix you. But inverted. In his apartment, amid stacks of journals and a half-packed suitcase for a conference in D.C., truths erupted. Theo and I. We're reevaluating, he admitted, voice fracturing. The open thing worked for adventures, but it's deeper. He feels sidelined. Sidelined. Betrayal's kin, but self-inflicted. I reeled. So what? We end before we peak. He cupped my face, tears salting his lashes. No. We evolve. Talk to him, with me. Transparency, remember? The trio summit happened at a quiet bistro in the North End. Cannoli dust on plates as Theo laid it bare. I love Elias. Love sharing him, in theory. But seeing you two? It's joy and jealousy, nodded. His honesty disarmed. Mine followed, fears of inadequacy spilling like Chianti. We emerged with a pact, counseling for us three, boundaries redrawn. Dates as unit first, duet second. Vulnerable, vital. Winter solstice brought clarity amid the snow globe shake. I defended my thesis in a wood-paneled room at the law building, profs nodding as I linked personal betrayal to legal reckonings. From Bowers to Boumediene, the court's arc mirrors our own, stumbles toward justice. Applause thrummed. Acceptance letters followed, Harvard's crimson envelope a crown. But home pulled insistent. Christmas in PA. Mom's tree twinkling with heirloom ornaments. Dad's gift a leather briefcase etched, son. Over wassail by the fire pit. Mom broached. We read your essay. Cried but understood a bit. Dad grunted. Proud kid. Even if I don't get it all. Not absolution but aperture. A door cracked to light. New Year's Eve. Boston ablaze with confetti and cheers from the balcony throngs. Elias, Theo, and I toasted on the fire escape. Fireworks painting our faces. To paths, Elias said, arm around us both. Twisted, true. In that moment, betrayal's sting faded to scar. Reminder, not ruler. Love, I learned, wasn't monopoly. It was mosaic, shards of conflict crafting something luminous, American in its flawed pursuit of more. Spring bloomed defiant, cherry blossoms veiling the quad like bridal veils. Graduation day dawned brilliant, families flooding the tents along the river, air humming with pomp and circumstance. I walked the stage in cap and gown, diploma in hand, Mom and Dad in the stands, her waving a sign, Alex, our brave heart. Jake hooped from the alumni section. Ryan texted congrats with a soccer emoji. Elias and Theo waited post-ceremony. Flowers and fist, hugs fierce. Law school loomed, Harvard's hallowed halls, clinics on immigrant rights. But first, a road trip. Elias, Theo, me, Subaru loaded with coolers and playlists, heading west to the Badlands, chasing horizons. Betrayal? A distant echo transmuted to fuel. My true path wasn't straight, nor solitary. It wound through hearts cracked open, counselors who saw souls, friends who forgave flaws. Human, profoundly so. First semester at Harvard Law was a gauntlet wrapped in ivy. Socratic seminars in Langdell Hall where profs eviscerated arguments like surgeons, casebooks thicker than my regrets, and the relentless hum of ambition in the reading room's green-shaded lamps. Cambridge felt like Boston's erudite twin, the T's red line my artery to Elias's practice across the river, but distance gnawed. His evenings claimed by clients, my nights by outlines and ochre study groups. Theo's carpentry took him to Providence gigs, leaving our triad stretched thin, calls devolving to miss you, texts amid the grind. The hook that yanked me undercame mid-October, during a moot court prep in the HLS co-op. My partner, a sharp-elbowed type from Stanford named Priya, leaned in over laptops. Heard you're dating your old shrink. Bold move. Ethics 101 nightmare. Rumor mill churned, courtesy of BU alumni gossip. I froze, highlighter midair. It's not like that. Sessions ended years ago. She shrugged, eyes sly. Still optics. Watch your back. Optics. The words slithered into my subconscious, coiling with every cold call and contracts, where hypotheticals on fiduciary duty mirrored my unease. Elias and I met for dinner at Alina, Somerville's Mediterranean haven, fairy lights twinkling like hesitant stars. Over lamb tagine I confessed the whispers. His fork paused, face clouding. I've heard them too. Colleague at a conference. Grant's got a soft spot for prodigies. This bullshit, Alex. But perception's a beast. Theo, ever the mediator, suggested a weekend reset. His family's cabin in the Berkshires, leaf peeping and disconnection. We piled in on a Friday fog, the drive-up route to a therapy of podcasts, This American Life episodes on reinvention. The cabin was storybook. Cedar logs by a leaf-choked lake, stone fireplace crackling against the chill. Evenings blurred into board games and bourbon. Mornings into hikes where we named fears aloud. Mine, derailing my career. Elias's, losing professionalism's armor. Theo's, fading into footnotes. One dusk, as loons called across the water, Elias pulled me aside on the dock, planks creaking underfoot. I need to tell you something. Pulse thundering, I braced. Theo and I, we're separating. Amicably. It's been coming. The poly experiment highlighted what we want separately now. Relief warred with grief. Hugs followed, tears salting the dusk. You too? I asked, tentative. He smiled, soft. If you'll have us me as is, No shadows. As is, we returned renewed, the triad evolving to duo plus friend. Theo's visits laced with easy affection, no jagged edges. But campus currents swirled darker. A faculty mixer at the Charles Hotel brought confrontation. An adjunct prof, bow-tied and blustery, cornering me by the charcuterie. Rivera, right? The counselor's pet. Careful. HLS eats scandals for breakfast. Venom veiled as advice. I reported it HR, but the chill lingered. Assignments returned with cryptic notes. Strong, but subjective. Betrayal's specter reared fully during finals week. Snow blanketing the yard in hush. An anonymous email hit my inbox. Screenshots of my old BU journal entries. Stolen? Hacked. Juxtaposed with Elias's session notes. Redacted, but damning in implication. Ethical breach. Resign or regret. Panic clawed. I forwarded to the dean, then called Elias, voice shattering over the line. It's out. Someone's gunning for us. He arrived at my cramped dorm in Annenberg Hall within the hour, coat dusted white, arms enveloping. We'll fight it. Together. Investigation launched. IT traced the email to a VPN, but whispers pinpointed a rival intern from the clinic, jealous of my Jamal case spotlight, nursing a grudge. Evidence mounted, her browser history, a bitter Yelp review of Elias's practice. Confrontation in the dean's oak-paneled office. Her tearful admission. I thought it was unfair. You got the wins because of him. Unfair. The irony burned. Resolution came swift. Her expulsion. My record cleared, but scars etched deeper. Elias faced board review, emerging with a reprimand but license intact. Boundary crossed post-relationship. The finding read. We weathered it in his apartment. Take-out tie and tear-streaked talks. Reaffirming, this doesn't define us. Theo mediated a group session, his carpenter's hands steadying the emotional joists. Spring thawed the literal and figurative. Crocuses pushing through Cambridge soil, my grades a solid B+ curve. I interned at GLAD, the LGBTQ plus legal arm, arguing amicus briefs on trans healthcare, work that felt like legacy. Elias proposed expansion. A joint seminar on queer mental health at HLS, me as TA. Partners in every sense, he said, ringless but ringed in intent. Yet family fissures widened. Mom's emails turned preachy, Dad's calls sparse. A Easter visit home devolved into ambush. Their pastor at the table, Bible open to Leviticus. Repent, son, before it's too late. I stood, chair scraping linoleum. Love isn't sin, Dad. It's salvation. Door slammed behind me, engine roaring south on 95. Elias met me at a rest stop near New Haven. Coffee steaming in the pre-dawn gray. You okay? No. But his presence mended. We drove back in silence. Then words. Plans for a Vermont escape, his childhood farm as neutral ground. There, amid apple orchards heavy with bloom, I met his folks. Farmers weathered as the silos, his coming out a faded scar they'd stitched with time. Elias chose joy, his mom said, pressing pie into my hands. You will too. Summer beckoned with clerkships. Mine at a federal court in Boston, his sabbatical for writing. A book on therapeutic authenticity in marginalized narratives. Theo relocated to Albany for a restoration project. Visits promised. Jake landed at Goldman. Ryan coached Pee Wee leagues. Lives diverging, converging in holiday cards. Climax crested in July. A heat wave baking the city. AC units humming like cicadas. The book launch at Harvard Bookstore. Elias on stage, spotlit, reading passages that echoed our story, veiled, but visceral. Q&A turned torrent. A heckler from the audience. Bowtie prof redux, microphone in fist. This glorifies impropriety, patient exploitation. Gasps rippled. Security hovered. I stood, unbidden, heart slamming. It's not exploitation. It's evolution, from client to equal, lies to light. Applause swelled, drowning dissent. The prof slunk out, tail tucked. Backstage, Elias pulled me close. My hero. That night, Rooftop bar overlooking the twinkling spires. We toasted. To seeing through. But peaks plummet. August brought Elias's diagnosis, early-stage lymphoma, caught on routine scan. Treatable, docs assured. But the word cancer landed like lead. Chemo loomed, his vibrancy dimmed by 4 drips in Mass General sterile bays. I shuttled between court and hospital, briefs blurring with bedside vigils. Theo flying in for tag teams. Betrayal? Life's cruel jest stripping control. Through it, love's depth revealed. His humor amid nausea. Bald looks good on me. Think Vin Diesel. My advocacy securing top oncologists via clinic ties. Jake wired funds unasked. Ryan sent care packages of signed jerseys. Mom called, voice quavering. How can we help? Door widening. Remission whispers came in September, scans clear, but the scare reshaped us. Priorities sharpened like a lens refocused. I almost lost this, Elias said. Fingers laced in mine on the hospital roof garden. City sprawling below. You, us. Humanity's core. Fragility forging fortitude. Fall's palette returned. Harvard's leaves a bonfire blaze. But the scare's afterglow lent urgency. A deliberate savoring of sunsets over the Weeks Bridge. Brunches at Tat where Theo regaled with Albany anecdotes. His new beau a quiet potter who joined our fold seamlessly. Elias's hair regrew in silver curls. A badge he wore with wry pride. Distinguished, darling. The book soared. Reviews in The Atlantic praising its raw humanism. Signings drawing crowds of queer youth hungry for mirrors. My clerkship evolved into mentorship under Judge Elena Vasquez, a trailblazer who'd argued before SCOTUS on Doma's demise. Your fire's familiar, she told me over coffee in her chambers, overlooking the custom house. Channel it, law's a tool, not a throne. Her guidance honed my edge for the bar, but personal currents tugged stronger. Family reconciliation bloomed tentative. Mom's visit to Boston, touring the Freedom Trail hand in hand, her cross necklace glinting beside my pride pin. I was scared, she confessed at Quincy Market, cobblestones uneven underfoot, of losing my boy to a world I didn't understand. Dad followed via video, gruff toast. Knock him dead in court, son. And bring that Elias home sometime. Progress, pedal by pedal. Elias and I deepened roots. A lease on a back bay brownstone. Exposed brick and bay windows framing the commons' seasonal shifts. Theo visited often, our bond fraternal now, pottery gifts lining shelves. Jake's promotion brought champagne toasts on our stoop. Ryan's wedding invite, to the artist. A vineyard affair in Napa. A bittersweet RSVP. Betrayals? Repurposed as prologue. Jake's jealousy a catalyst for honesty. Ryan's doubt a detour to self-worth. Climax's echo faded, but ripples persisted. A landmark case landed on my docket via GLAD, challenging a state's conversion therapy ban exemption for religious counselors. Elias consulted pro bono, his expertise a shield. We prepped in our kitchen, takeout falafel wrappers mapping strategies. Court day dawned crisp, Suffolk Superior's marble halls echoing footsteps like judgments. I argued lead, voice steady. Mandated silence on identity isn't therapy. It's torture. The First Amendment protects speech, not harm. The bench leaned in, robes rustling. Opposing counsel, a slick firm from D.C., countered with faith freedoms. Verdict dropped weeks later. Injunction granted. Therapy deemed unconstitutional coercion. Headlines blared, Harvard clerks win for queer rights. But victory tasted shared. Elias's hug in the courthouse lobby fierce. You saw through the law, like I saw through you. Celebrations spilled to the TAM. Davis Square's dive. Beers raised with clinic comrades. Toasts to paths paved in precedent. Winter wrapped us gentle. Holidays a mosaic. PA for turkey with tentative toasts. Vermont for solstice with Elias's kin. New Year's in Times Square via TV with Theo's crew. Bar prep loomed. A February inferno of flashcards and fevers. But Elias's routines grounded. Morning yoga in the living room. His downward dog a beacon. Breathe through it, he'd say, echoing our first sessions. Passage came in March, scores mailed like verdicts. Admitted to practice, Massachusetts bar etched in gold. Swearing in at the State House, oak-paneled and historic. Mom and Dad in the gallery. Elias's hand in mine under the pew. I do solemnly swear, voice clear, to uphold justice, personal, profound. Career forked, offers from firms in IP litigation, but glad called loudest. A staff attorney slot anchoring Boston's front lines. Elias expanded his practice, a satellite in Cambridge for students, our evenings dissecting cases over Pinot synergy, not shadow. Theo's pottery gallery opening in Albany drew us north. Shelves of earthen vessels symbolizing shaped clays. 1 year post-diagnosis, a spring picnic on the Esplanade marked remission's ring. Artisanal cheeses, a cake-iced, survivor-strong, Jake and Ryan toasting via Zoom from coasts. Fireworks later, July 4th redux, painted the sky in booms of belonging. Remember the rain? Elias murmured, head on my shoulder. That bar, your flight. I nodded, kissing his temple. Led here. To you. Betrayal's final unraveling came unexpectedly. A letter from the adjunct prof, post-retirement, forwarded via Dean. I was wrong, bitter from my own closets. Your win inspired. Apologies. Forgiveness, unsolicited. Lighten the load. Years unspooled like film reels. Promotions at GLAD, arguing Lawrence versus Texas retrospectives. Elias's TEDx on seeing the unseen, viral in therapy circles. Trips to Provincetown beaches, hands laced in dune grass. Family fusions. Dad at Pride. Rainbow lay absurd on his Eagles tee. Jake's wedding in the Hamptons, me best man. Speech weaving our trio's tapestry. Ryan's kid, a soccer phenom, calling me Uncle Alex at reunions. At 30, atop Acadia's cliffs, Elias's 40th surprise, wind whipping Atlantic spray. I proposed, not with diamonds but a leather journal, pages filled with our story. Hooks and heartbreaks, conflicts conquered. Will you? Kneeling on granite, gulls wheeling. Every day, he said, pulling me up. Yes, a vow etched in salt air. Wedding was ours. A Cambridge courtyard, cherry trees confetti, Theo officiating with Carpenter's poetry. Vows echoed our arc. I see you, flaws, fire, and choose all. Dance floor under strings of lights, Jake leading Mom in a tipsy waltz, Ryan hoisting toasts. True path, not linear triumph, but winding grace. Betrayals as bend, counselors as cartographers, love as lantern. In America's vast quilt, Boston bricks to PA porches, courtrooms to cabins. We stitched humanity's hem. Imperfect, enduring, achingly alive. And in quiet dawns, Elias's breath sinking mine, I knew we'd found it. Home.